Breaking news, Sheldon. The gathering of the Juggalos for 2020 has been canceled due to COVID-19. The Insane Clown Posse are surprisingly voices of reason in this time of crisis.
Okay.
And I am so excited to tie this into time of crisis and voices of reason in the Challenge Bunker. But first, let's do introductions. I'm John Chidley Hill.
That was incredible. And I am Sheldon Alexander.
And this is You Killed It, the podcast about the challenge, surprisingly talking about Insane Clown Posse and the gathering of the Juggalos. Never gets old.
No.
I just saw that on Twitter, and I had to tie it in because I love making fun of ICP. And also, seriously, there are a bunch of clowns in the house, and also surprisingly rational people in the house. But we're going to get to all of that.
The fact that it's like ICP, that actually made me laugh. That's the part that made me laugh, the short form of it all. But that's okay. That's okay. The challenge was, again, the show, John, every week I feel like I say this, and I know people are probably tired of listening. Even though you guys got to listen to us a little later last week, which I'll say, I'm not going to go in depth about it, but it was all my fault, okay? Blame me. Send your hate towards me. I messed up last week's pod. I delayed last week's pod being available. We apologize. But hey, shit happens sometimes, okay? Shit happens.
Yeah. Sheldon, I wasn't even going to bring it up. I was just upwards and onwards, always moving forward.
I'm here to take the hate. It's okay. And as they say, if you ain't got haters, you ain't popping. So it's okay. I'm all right.
Well, then Jordan must be popping because I'm going to hate on his outfit. Jordan looks like he just got off of a shift at Schrute Farms. Mm-hmm. Does your man's only have the one outfit with his bowl cut and like overalls? What is happening?
I have no idea what's going on with Jordan, but apparently I think the whole house just has to be like on its head now that CT's gone. Maybe that's it. You know, everything just kind of turned upside down with CT gone, and that kind of has the house in disarray, including Jordan's haircut.
He's grieving. Mm-hmm. He doesn't know what to do with himself.
Yeah.
You know, every morning he wakes up in the bunker, and then he just has nothing, like no motivation, no reason to get dressed.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I guess I'll put on the same t-shirt covered in holes.
Yeah.
You know, put my overalls back on. Definitely don't do anything with my hair. It's perfect.
I mean, that's kind of like me right now, so I hear you. A lot of talk.
I'm sorry.
I was gonna say a lot of talk about this being the upset of the century, and I don't know. I feel like that's a bit much because it's not like he beat CT in like some headbanger competition.
No,
like it's a big win. Don't get me wrong, but let's chill out on that for a second. And on top of that, Kyle, who to me had an interesting episode, but Kyle being like, "Hey, welcome to the I Beat CT Club." Like, slow your roll, bro. Slow your roll. That's what I was thinking anyways. I don't know. Do you disagree with that?
I mean, if I were Jay, like, I'd be pleased with myself. And it although not a headbanger, Jay's victory was in a physical thing. Mm-hmm. Like, it did involve a lot of strength. And, like, the thing about CT is he's sneaky good at puzzles. So the, like, puzzle aspect of it, too. Mm-hmm. But also, you know, you got to channel your Barry Sanders and act like you've been there before. And like, I don't think Jay was really rubbing it in.
No, it was Kyle.
It was everyone else
for sure
in the house. We did get a lot of feedback from people.
Okay,
I'm gonna point out I hope I'm saying this right. Tinera Rust.
Okay.
Messaged me to say that they've been rewatching Jay's season of Survivor, and man, he is a competition's beast.
Yeah.
Apparently he just is a huge player and sharp politically. Although at this point, I mean, we've talked about this before. Would anyone want, well, we sort of touched on this, but like, does Jay now get a pass, or are people going to keep taking runs at him? Because I
think it all depends on what the challenge is, and not to go too far ahead, but we obviously know that next week is a guy's elimination, and in the teaser clip for next week, you kind of see that it is a headbanger, and I definitely think Jay's in it.
I actually took a note on the teaser trailer that they had.
Okay.
As longtime listeners know, of You Killed It know, we typically both record the challenge and then skip through commercials because, it saves you like 20 minutes of time.
Yep.
But I actually stopped to watch the teaser trailer that ran during one of the commercial breaks. And this is just like a weird, maybe it's just a Canadian thing, but did you notice, so they had the title screen where it said like, the challenge, total madness. And then at the bottom, in very small font, it said, JFL gags on during the day or something. Like they had like a shout out to
No, they
Just
always
for
do
Laughs
that.
gags.
Yeah.
I'd never noticed that
No,
before.
they always do that. In Canada, it'll always be like their opportunity when they're promoting a bigger show. They'll always have like in the thing at the bottom, it'll always say, also catch blah, 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 blah at this time. Some like lesser known show. That's always been a thing.
I'm ride or die for JFL gags. Arguably the best Canadian TV show out there right now. I guess Schitt's Creek is probably better.
Yeah.
But then JFL gags. Come on.
Yeah. I don't know.
It was interesting to start this episode of the challenge. They flipped a lot in like the first 10, not 5 minutes. They flipped from scene to scene. Mm-hmm. So we had Jordan going over sort of like the dynamic in the house after Jay wins. We've got Rogan saying that he's decided to basically chill on Jay for a little bit. Doesn't want that, like, kind of smoke from Jay. Mm-hmm. Then we've got Maddie and Ashley having a little conversation in what is clearly the smokers area outside the bunker. Like, that's pretty obvious where they go to, like, hack darts, right?
Yeah, definitely. And basically Ashley is doing what Ashley does, right? We saw her do it last week with Jenny, where she's talking about how worried she is because she doesn't want to get voted in, and Bananas is leading this campaign, and they're having what we think is a bonding moment. But then we get Maddie's confessional, and Maddie says she didn't think that she would like Ashley, but I guess it's good to keep your friends close and your enemies closer. To which I was like, oh, okay, that's not what I thought she was going to say. It sounded like they were bonding, and she's just like, nah, I don't really mess with this bitch. That's kind of what the vibe I got off that, and obviously we see that to be true.
Yeah, one thing that I found strange was like everyone's like, oh, Ashley makes deals with anyone. Like people are just like, she makes new friends every season. Is Maddie not doing the same, like in this scene?
Yeah, I think the thing is though, I agree with you. I just think that people don't think that what Ashley does is genuine, right? Like she's essentially going to all these girls every week and like basically giving a sob story, right? Whereas if you want to like hang out and chill with different people and crack jokes and cool, whatever, but giving the sad story every week when you've won the most money on the show and you're so afraid of going in, that's kind of different, I think. And I kind of understand that. And people are kind of just seeing how she plays the game, and it's not about, okay, like, because for all Maddie's doing, at least she says, hey, if I have to go in, I have to go in. Cool, like, I'm fine with that. Ashley is just, like, cheesed and trying to avoid it at all costs, right? So I think that was kind of the thing to set her off edge, and then Bear just came in I mean, theoretically pushed her off the edge, right?
Yeah. We should just say from that scene, from like the little smoker's den there, that they shook hands and agreed to not say each other's names.
Which, yeah.
That'll come up later.
I'm going to be very honest. At this point, I was like, Ashley is going home at the end of this episode. Yeah, like I knew right away. I was like, Ashley's going home. I could just tell where it was going. And her energy just wasn't good. And that's before this Bear episode where, I mean... Bear's entertaining, right? And we've talked about it. Kayla makes her return to the challenge. Kayla is also a very good challenge 5-tool competitor, right? She's great in the challenges. She's great in the house. She's good for the house.
Great at a lot of things.
For sure. And so watching Bear shoot a shot with her continuously every single week is kind of funny because you're literally this is like, remember what was that old show Keys to the VIP? It's like you're watching him like try to really kick game to this girl who is openly saying like they all know she has a boyfriend at home, And week by week, I know that we know what ends up happening, but watching it go down is so funny to me. Like, are you enjoying this as much as I am? As much as we can see, like, okay, this is working. Like, he's chipping away. This is working.
It is working. And, like, one of the things about life is that, like, yeah, I'm getting philosophical right now. But, like, as soon as Kayla, I don't want to say she left the door open, but the fact that she would agree to have these conversations with Bear, even when she was very firmly saying, like, no.
Hold on. What's one of the rules of life according to Jay-Z and also fits into the Challenge House? Well, actually, it's Biggie, right? But when the Remy's in the system, okay?
Yeah.
And you can clearly tell there might be some beverages flowing.
Well, they're both drunk. Kayla is more drunk.
I was trying to be polite.
Well, it is what it is. She's very firm that even if she were single, she would not be into it with Bear.
Well, hold on.
He lives on the other side of the world. And
Hold on. Let's deep dive into her actual words here. She says, I couldn't, like, date you because you live halfway across the world.
Fair point.
I couldn't date you leaves a lot of room for a lot of other shit. I'm just saying. I'm not saying, true. But I'm saying.
That's fair. My point is just that if you even entertain having these conversations with Bear, the implication is that it is up for negotiation.
Oh, 1,000%.
You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I'm not saying at this point she's being disloyal, and I'm not saying, like, her words are pretty clear that she's not going to betray her boyfriend's trust. But the fact that she's willing to have these conversations is giving Bear enough to continue to press and to try.
Actions, not words, right? And then in her confessionals, Bear's telling her, are you calling me a liar? Or you like me, stop being a liar. And it's playful, it's flirtatious. And she removes herself from the situation, which I get. But her confessional, she's like, she likes that he's obnoxious. And I find that hilarious. And obviously, the confessionals are done in hindsight, right? So it's playing up the story and all that. But it's still pretty funny to watch this game go on to where Bear takes it back to grade 3, where I'm just going to try to do something silly in the class to try to impress this girl.
Hold on. I have a production question for you that I think you'll know the answer to.
Okay.
Yes, the confessionals are done afterwards. Like, they're done in hindsight. But how far afterwards? Like,
it all depends.
I always had the sense.
It depends.
My impression was that's like every 3 days.
It depends. You'll probably do them, like, in the moment as it happens, and then there'll be a chance where you bring everyone back to, like, fill in episodes. So you would do it as the season's going along, and then you would, let's say you have, like, some holes, right, where you're starting to put together the episode, but you're like, oh no, I really need someone to say blank. Perfect example is in the middle of this episode when Casey's team was about to go, I was like, oh shit, I keep forgetting about Casey. She hasn't said shit this whole time. And then they had her explain what the challenge was coming back from break. Yeah. That's one of those where I would expect that while they put together the episode, they then left a hole, went back and said, hey, we haven't heard from Casey. Let's just get her to read what this challenge is. Do you know? That's one of the things that you would do, just because as you piece the first few episodes together, you realize, oh, she hasn't said anything. Let's get her to do this.
I'll never say that I know more about TV than you, because I definitely do not. But one thing that I've noticed is that the confessionals are always in front of a green screen. Yeah, so it's pretty easy. You can just even get someone when they're back in the United States to be like, yo, sit in front of a green screen at, like, a local Viacom office or whatever, your local TV station, and, like, we need to, like, bang out some questions or, like, have you say a few things, and then they can, like, fix it in post.
Totally agree.
Even I know that much.
Yeah, totally agree. But then we get to the dramatics of this episode, and Bear, as mentioned, he says he thinks Kayla likes a bad boy, so he's going to be a bad boy, and he grabs a fire extinguisher, goes into the room, and just starts going nuts with the fire extinguisher when there's a bunch of people just sitting on the bed chilling. And most people seem to think it's a joke, like they're on to Bear's game at this point. But there's some people who don't find it funny at all. And there's a split, but leading the charge on the split, because I feel like most of the people that were mad were just kind of like, they stayed away from him. They're just like, Bear, get out of here. Made their point, left. Ashley decides that she's going to actually confront Bear, and then she spits on him. And this does not make Maddie happy at all. And I gotta say, I agree with Maddie. She says, I agree where I come from. Sorry. Maddie says, where I come from, you spit in my face. That's like punching me. That's disrespect, and I don't like it. I totally agree with Maddie here as she sides with Bear. But what did you think of Ashley? First off, what did you think of Bear's prank? And then Ashley's reaction. Did Ashley overreact?
I would be angry too. Like, I'd be pissed, at least at first.
Yeah.
Right? Because, like, it gets your adrenaline pumping. It would be scary for, like, 5 seconds. Like, if you didn't know what was going on. I also strongly had the sense. I mean, we already said that Kayla was clearly drunk and Bear was probably drunk. I had the sense it was pretty late at night and that they'd all been drinking just by seeing how everyone was reacting.
Yeah.
So, like, you're drunk, you're, like, mid-conversation, and suddenly you're in a room being filled with, like, fire extinguisher, you'd be a little, like, angry and confused. But, like, I'd move on pretty quickly. So I understand Ashley's anger, but, I mean, there's no excusing spitting on someone. Like, if she, like, let's say, same exact scenario, only she just shouted at him the entire time. Maybe threw a pillow or, like, hit him with a pillow hard. Different conversation,
sure.
Right? Like, the spitting is crossing the line. If she had shoved him, maybe okay. If she'd hit him, not okay. Like, she crossed the line for sure, in my mind.
Yeah.
Although I understand why she's pissed. That said, I did think it was pretty funny. The thing I found funniest about it was, so it's in the weird sort of like, it's sort of like, yes, it's a room, but one of the walls is plexiglass. And Fessy was on the other side of the plexiglass.
Yeah.
It was like banging against it, laughing.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. That was pretty jokes. I did see that. That was pretty jokes. And that just furthers the point that some people found this hilarious. Some people did not find it funny at all. But Ashley, again, the level, like if we were doing a power ranking of the levels of disrespect, spitting in someone's face is way up there. So
yeah,
that's where I see, okay, Ashley, you're taking this way too seriously. And the other thing is, it's Bear. And I think Kayla said it perfectly. Is it stupid? Yeah. But at the end of the day, let's not all give Bear the attention that he's seeking right now. And that's the perfect response. Because people are mad, as we mentioned. Anise is mad. Nani's not happy. But Kayla, I think's right. But then we see Big T and Tori, and they're like laughing. And they're almost like ashamed that they're laughing. Because they're giving Bear, yeah, I see what's behind you.
I just had to point it out.
I got you. Right? But like, Big T and Tori are laughing, but they're almost like embarrassed talking about, you know what I mean? Like they're almost embarrassed. They're like, they don't want to give them the attention, but yet they found it so funny. And then this is where Ashley screws up because it's Bear. He's clearly trying to troll you again. And he starts into it. And you would think that after this happened to her with Bananas, she would just leave it alone. But instead she engages with him. She falls for it again. And I don't understand why she keeps falling for the trap. She yells at Bear, "You put toxic chemicals into my mouth." To which Maddie just, this is the line of the episode. I'm giving it away right here. But Maddie says, "I'm sure you've had worse, bitch." And the whole house with the bench reacts. I found that very funny. And Bananas with the reggae horns for emphasis in the background.
Hilarious. It was such a like catty, devastating line, and then she added the bitch too. Like it's so harsh.
Yeah, it was like a rapper like punctuating their bar at the end of it, right?
And like what we were just pointing out is over my shoulder, for those of you that are just listening to the podcast, I just have like clips from old challenges running. And it was the scene where Ashley was like riding the soap covered log and some would argue she really enjoyed herself rubbing that soap off. So for that to be over my shoulder when Maddie's making that comment about I'm sure you've had worse is just the timing on my TV continues to be amazing.
Yeah, totally.
Poor Ashley.
Totally. And so this turns into a screaming match, obviously, right? As mentioned, Bananas comes with the reggae horns. Ashley says, then takes things personal. And it takes a turn here. Takes a turn. Ashley stands up in Maddie's face. Maddie tells her to sit down, to which Ashley responds with, go ahead, hit me so you can get kicked off another show and go back to jail. And then everyone turns serious. Maddie in a confessional explains that she recently got into some trouble. She went out drinking, then got in a car, and then the next thing she knows, she woke up in a hospital and then ended up in jail. So she told Ashley this, and now Ashley is using this against her in an argument in front of the whole house. Johnny Bananas and company are trying to calm her down, calm Maddie down. Maddie is super fired up. I'm going to ask you, John, are you okay with what Ashley said here, or did she go too far?
She went too far, but in her defense, like we were literally just talking about Maddie taking a very personal shot during an argument that she wasn't really in.
Correct.
Like Maddie waded into the fray with a very cutting, as funny as we found it, the house found it. She got personal first, and then, again, in something that she wasn't directly involved in, and then Ashley, I think, also took it too far. I don't want to say Maddie had it coming, but also,
yeah,
if you're looking for a fight, Ashley Mitchell is going to bring you a fight.
Yeah. I think I've said this before on the challenge. Once you get into an argument with someone, you don't get to decide what the line is.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you're arguing with someone, and, hey, they might say something completely inappropriate, completely wrong, completely whatever, but, like, you entered into the fray with them. And, hey, they might say something that's way crossing the line, but then it's, as the wise words of Steven Jackson I point to all the time, respect it or check it. Do something about it, right? So, yeah. I mean, that's kind of the realm it's in now. And you know Ashley just saying something to say something. Maddie, I think we know, probably would actually throw down. So that was kind of, you know, very aggressive. But she calms down, even though Ashley's calling her a dick sucker. Can I say dick sucker on this podcast? I don't even know. I guess I just did. But
sure.
I'm sorry, kids. But, you know, and they're going back and forth, and you could tell Maddie's kind of hurt. But as you said, it's kind of self-inflicted, and Nani even ends up jumping in as well. But as you mentioned, if Maddie jumps in for Bear, there's nothing wrong with Nani jumping in, and then they're just screaming at each other. I don't know. Things got super hectic here. I don't know if anyone comes out as the winner other than Bear.
Yeah, I have to make 2 points on that note. First of all, the other thing about Maddie being so mad, and again, it was like a deeply personal shot, and she sort of played it as like, I told you that in confidence. Maddie's DUI is like, I don't want to say a well-known fact, but it is on like the public record.
Yeah. Like, I think people know. I think people knew about it. It was just like
any of them could have brought it up. So it wasn't like, it's still like a deeply personal shot, but it's not like, oh, I told you that in confidence, how dare you.
Yeah, it's not like nobody knew about this.
And also, Maddie, if you get a DUI, like, you have to live with the consequences of that for the rest of your life, including people taking shots at you, as shitty and as hurtful as it is. Mm-hmm. So, Bear, though, you're right, does come out looking somehow the best in all of this.
Yeah.
And I loved how they had the two giant Czech security guards trying to separate them, and like Bear is in between the two security guards, acting as if he's helping, and he's wearing like swim goggles.
Of course he is.
My God, Bear.
I still stand by the fact, though, that, look, so let me ask you this to round out this little part here. What was worse, spitting in someone's face or what Bear did with the fire extinguisher? It's a tough one.
It is tough.
And I'm saying, hold on. I'm going to clarify this. Ashley spitting in Bear's face and Bear doing the fire extinguisher. I'm saying that because the fire extinguisher, there's context to it. Just like there's context to spitting in the face. Like if some random person comes with a fire extinguisher, cool. Obviously that's probably way worse because you're like, what the hell's going on? In the context of Bear being Bear, when we know that Bear is just a goofball trying to like joke around, do you know what I mean? Like it's dumb, but in the context of the house, they're all bored, looking for entertainment. I don't know.
I also, God, you're putting me in the uncomfortable position of having to defend either of them. I also think, though, that the Bear with the fire extinguisher, it wasn't really malicious, and it wasn't targeting anyone.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it was just like a room, and like, I suppose it was targeting Kayla with affection, but it wasn't. It was definitely different intent, but like I don't know, it's both shitty. They're both drunk idiots.
That's fair. That's fair. So if there's one way to get over a drunken night, it's got to be what the challenge was the next day, right?
Oh man, can we just say? I assume they certainly made it seem like this was the next morning.
Yeah.
Imagine having to do this challenge, which I'll describe in a second, while hungover.
Yeah, that would not be good. Not at all.
Like this was terrible. So it's called Cold War, and you're split up into teams of 5. They didn't make it clear if it was air quotes randomly selected.
Oh no,
not.
they did. They did.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they did.
Well,
I keep paying attention to that now, and especially when they listed the first team, I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. I think you're definitely putting Nani and Ashley on the same team the night after that happened. That's not random.
So they split the house into teams of 5, and each team is further separated into 2 groups. You have 3 divers and 2 breakers, and the idea is that the 3 divers have to get into a pool of water that have giant, like it seemed like there were foam puzzle pieces, like Tetris pieces, that are secured with carabiners. You have to, and it's cold water, and you have to undo the carabiners, get the 5 pieces out of the water, then the 3 divers have to go carry them and assemble a puzzle so that it like fits into sort of a wall mount that they have. At the same time, you have the 2 icebreakers from a different team up on scaffolding in this sketchy looking warehouse, breaking ice with ice picks, and then they can put the ice down the chute, making the water colder. Now, I don't know about you. Off the hop, the first thing I thought was like, how much could the ice make the water colder? Like, it's a huge, like, pool of water. Yeah. You've got 3 people in it, which are sources of heat. It can't, like, the ice isn't going to make that big a difference. It turns out the ice makes a huge difference and was, like, cooling the water a lot. And one thing that I also didn't appreciate was that they only had the 1 pool of water.
Yeah.
So going first was a huge advantage.
Massive.
Because the water was getting colder and colder and colder as the day wore on.
Yeah. There are a lot of little tricks of the trade to this for sure. And at first when I saw the challenge, I kind of thought it was one of those things where we wouldn't be able to appreciate how cold it was. Right? Because you're kind of looking at it and you're like, oh, this seems kind of easy. Because I'm sure it's cold, but I'm sure it's probably not that cold. And even if it is, they probably won't be able to, exemplify that with us just watching. And boy, was I wrong, right? Like, it was so apparent how cold it was to the point where, as the first team jumps in, Bananas is just loving it because you're seeing Rogan, Josh, and Fessy struggle so hard, but you're seeing these 3 just 3 of the biggest guys in the house, and they're all just kind of like jumping up and down, trying to stay warm, but looking so like non-intimidating, right? As they jump up and down. And to me, that was a part where I went, oh, okay, I guess it is really, really bad. I didn't think that it would be that cold, but clearly, as mentioned, I was really wrong. And they struggled.
They did struggle. So, as you said, the first three divers were Rogan, Josh, and Fessy. Mm-hmm. First of all, I was really impressed with how Fessy did. It seemed like he was doing the lion's share of the work in the water.
Yeah.
But also, when I saw those three struggling with the cold, I was like, oh no, there are much smaller, skinnier people that are going to go in that are going to have a hard time. Because those are bigger dudes.
For sure.
You know, like, they're all fit. Like, I'm not going to... talk shit about their body fat percentage, but just the fact that they're larger means they'll take longer for the cold to affect them.
Yeah.
You think of the big T's of this world, or Jay, who are much smaller, or Ashley, they're gonna freeze in there. Ashley opted out of being a diver. She was one of the ice pick people, but still, I was like, if those three are struggling, they're probably the three biggest dudes in the house now that CT's gone. I should point out, CT would have had a great time with this because, no offense, he's got a lot of layers, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And he's good at puzzles.
Yeah.
He would have done well.
I'm glad you brought up the puzzles, right? Because as much as these guys struggled to get the pieces out of the water, they struggled even more with the puzzle. And TJ was laughing at them. TJ found it hilarious. He said, I don't think you could be any further off with this puzzle.
TJ was on one this episode. He had some good things to say throughout.
He was crushing these guys. And, the team, I think, after the challenge started, at least the other competitors kind of realized how these guys messed up in terms of picking Rogan, Josh, and Fessy, because you need to have one person who's quote-unquote the puzzle person to be able to get this done, right? And these guys really struggled, took them forever. But, it's one thing for Ashley to worry about it, but at the same time, why wouldn't you have gone then? Right? So, especially when you think that you're playing for your livelihood.
And you don't know what your puzzle, what your divers, what side deals they have, mm-hmm. You don't know if they're going to have your back.
And no, I was going to say, it's funny, though, that you mentioned that side deals, because I know this isn't a side deal, but when Jordan mentioned that he didn't want to go into the cold water because it's cold, and also he doesn't want to beat Tori, he doesn't want to win, he wants to help Tori, I didn't even think of that as a possibility of just throwing it for your team. And obviously it's Jordan and Tori, they're married, but I'm saying just in terms of alliances, right? I didn't even think of the fact that, hey, there might be some people who just want to throw it just for that fact. I didn't really think of it in that sense, but hey, that's why Jordan's Jordan, and he's won a bunch of challenges, and I'm sitting on my couch talking to you, man.
In terms of next level thinking, the next team to go in are Dee, Nelson, and Kayla, and Melissa and Maddie are supposed to be the ones chucking ice into the water. But their teammates, their divers, Jay, Tori, and Wes, who are supposed to go into the water next, say to Melissa and Maddie, don't put any ice in. It's cold enough as it is. Let their body temperature warm it up so that we have an easier time.
Great strategy.
I have to also add, they're putting up all the temperatures in Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
It's Fahrenheit. I'm not gonna talk about how centigrade, how Celsius is a superior temperature system.
Okay.
Unit of measurement. But I have no idea what Fahrenheit temperatures are.
Yeah.
I know it dropped down to 50 degrees, which is cold.
Yeah.
I think 32 is freezing, so it's just above freezing. I'm not sure, though. I'm not clear.
Yeah, I didn't look it up. I honestly thought that you would look it up. I always assume that you do. You look up the smart things.
I normally would. I guess I'm tired this morning.
I'm joking.
It's my bad.
But yeah, clearly Fahrenheit or Celsius, it didn't matter because it wasn't equaling our guy Nelly's core temperature.
No. So, as I said, it's Dee, Nelson, and Kayla in there together, and they are struggling. And also, as I was just saying, Kayla, she's in great shape, but she's not big. That cold would shoot right through her. They were struggling so hard, to the point where I think for the first time I've ever seen, TJ came over to them and said, do you guys want to quit?
Yeah.
It was so bad that TJ Lavin, whose motto is, I hate quitters, no quitters allowed, offered to let them quit.
Yeah.
And they held on longer, and then TJ had to actually come over and was like, all right, you guys are done. Like, this is too dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, Nelson had like snot coming out of his nose. He couldn't feel his fingers. You could just see their hands shaking. And when you're just standing in the freezing cold water, not actually doing anything, you might as well just quit, because you're not. It's not even like you're trying at this point, right? And you're already done, because your mind has already just convinced itself that it can't go further. Right? There's no coming back from that. So they get out, and immediately, like, Nelson can't even walk. They're, like, holding him up like he's dead weight. And my guy ends up being taken off in an ambulance, which I was kind of like, oh, shit. Oh, like, that got real really quickly. And it made me think, like, there's no way they could let them continue in the same elements, could they? Like, they must have warmed it up a little bit after that. They didn't show us. This is all my assumption. I don't know this. There's no, like, internet deep dive or anything. I was just saying, holy shit, there's no way that everyone could watch that happen and then I'm going into that cold-ass water right after? Not a chance. Not a chance at all.
So we know. I looked it up. 50 degrees Fahrenheit is 10 degrees Celsius.
Okay.
So pretty cold. We have a listener comment, Lucas Wyatt, who describes himself as a first-time, long-time listener. I'm going to skip the first half of his tweet because we're going to circle back to that. But he asks, has there been a more dangerous weekly challenge than Cold War in the recent history of the show?
I don't think so. Not just like a normal challenge. I don't think so.
Nothing comes to mind in terms of... I mean...
Here's the thing, right? Because the thing that makes this one so much more difficult is you can't gauge how someone's going to react. Like, you could be a medical person and know that, hey, it'll take X amount of time for your body to shut down in this temperature of water, right? Like, you could Google that and find that out. You could be a medical professional and know that. That still doesn't tell you how every single person's body is going to react, because every single person's body is different. Do you know what I mean? So that's a tough one. But either way, the thing that threw me off, like, going forward a little bit here, was that Jordan is just like, the ambulance drives off, and the way that they cut it seemed so, pardon the pun, cutthroat here, right? To throw back to a challenge thing. But Jordan's like, it's okay, guys. He's going to be okay. Like, you don't know that, right? And then he's like, don't let that phase you. They'll be fine. And then there's a voiceover from TJ where he says, Nelson's gone to the hospital, but the challenge must go on. And I was like, yo, hold on here, right? And I know it's a voiceover, and obviously they did it after they know Nelson's fine. But just the way that it was cut together, I was kind of like, hold up, right? Like, are we really just going forward like this?
This seems like our only opportunity to do our new segment for this season, Whoa Nelly, where we say something nice about Nelson.
Yeah, I felt bad for Nelson here. Like, poor guy. My guy was taken off on a stretcher in the freezing cold water. He couldn't even walk. Like, I felt really bad for Nelson. But the nice thing that I will say about Nelly is we got multiple people writing into us saying, hey, Nelson's record in eliminations is actually really good.
Yeah. So it's 8-1-1, apparently.
I would like to apologize to Nelson, and that is a nice thing that I will say about Nelson in this episode. I feel sorry for you, and you are pretty good at eliminations. My bad.
I'm going to say, what I take umbrage with is when Nelson said, I'm known for being good in eliminations. I didn't know what his record was. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that's what Nelson is known for, not to split hairs.
Hey, I thought you were supposed to be saying something nice about Nelson here.
I'm going to circle around to saying something nice about Nelson. I'm just defending myself.
Okay.
That I don't think Nelson is known for being good in eliminations.
Okay.
But I am impressed that Nelson has such a good record. That's one nice thing I'll say. I genuinely felt bad for him, and I was impressed with how tough he was and his willingness to stick this out. Especially given, and like, we heard no words of complaint from him. There's no like confessional where he's like, yo, that was fucked up. There's nothing like that. He like took it on the chin, tried his best. Yeah. I mean, put it this way, he impressed TJ Lavin.
Yeah.
In terms of like his competitiveness, his drive, his fire. And that's to me very impressive. So I'm sorry that it went so badly for Nelson, but I'm impressed with the his endurance, his toughness.
So what did you make of immediately following the next group? They're tossing ice right back in there after they see their competitors go off in an ambulance. All right, let's get back to it. And then more ice is being tossed back down. Do you think that's cool? Were you okay with that? Or just like, nah, that's not cool. We just saw my guy go off with possible hyperthermia. Do you know what I'm saying?
Sheldon, I was so cool with it, it didn't even occur to me that it was a dickish thing to do after what they just seen.
I didn't think
what
so
you
either.
Just laid out hadn't even crossed my mind.
No. I didn't think so either. I wrote it down. I kind of like laughed. Like, I didn't think it was a dick move, but I kind of laughed because I was like, all right, TJ said challenge must go on. But speaking of a challenge move, though, Wes with one of the most, like, I don't know what to call this. I was going to say gangster, or one of the most incredible challenge strategies I have ever seen. And I don't know if enough was made about it in terms of, you know, how great of a ploy it was, but also I wanted to know if everybody in the house knew about it. There's just not enough discussion. But the fact that Tori just casually throws out, because the next group that's in there, right? It's Tori, Wes, and who? Who's the next person?
Jay.
And Jay.
Jay.
There's not enough, so they're in there, and Tori just casually throws out in the confessional. Wes is over there peeing on himself, warming up the area around him. So she says she's willing to swim in Wes's piss to get the pieces. Now, there's so much here. One, did Wes announce this to the group? Because there's another group that has to go afterwards that would then also be swimming in his piss? Was Jay also okay with swimming in Wes's piss? But also, who came up with this strategy? Because in theory, this is a really good strategy.
I'm not so sure how much of a strategy it was. Like, I think it was effective.
Okay.
But I also think that sometimes you just get the pee shivers.
Oh.
And like, you jump into something that cold, you're not really going to have a choice. And then it worked to their advantage. Like, and also, I mean, shout out to Wes's pee, but it might not have made it like all the way over to Jay's corner. You know what I mean? Like, by the time it gets there, it's going to cool off. So maybe Jay doesn't even know.
Fair.
Maybe Wes didn't even say anything to Tori, but like Tori like passes Wes, is like, oh, I know what's going on here. I just walked through a pee cloud, but I'm not mad at it.
It's fair. Because immediately after, and you know, they do a really good job with their puzzle. Cool. They had great teamwork. They did the puzzle on the ground. I want to skip ahead because I was just like, yo, hold on. There's another group that's going to go in. And I was looking for the shots. I'm not going to lie to you. I was looking for the shots of, yo, who else is putting their head into the water the next round? And it was Bananas. Like, that's what I was paying attention to for the rest of it. And there's no mention of it, which, okay, fine. But, like, should there be mention of it? Like, how safe is that? Where's Dr. Fauci to tell me, like, is that healthy? Right? Banana sticking his head in. Because, like, again, we've all swam in a pool where someone's taking a piss in it, right? Like, obviously. But we don't legitimately know about it. And also, I think Wes did this on purpose as a form of strategy. But I still got to think that part is not on my waiver when I sign up for the challenge. There's no part that says, I also agree to swim in someone's piss.
But we're also assuming that Wes was the only one to piss in that tub.
Great point. Great point by you.
Right? Like, we didn't hear from, like, Kayla and Dee and Nelson immediately afterwards. They clearly weren't in control of their bodies. Who knows what's going on in that tub?
You make valid points. You make valid
right?
points.
And like I do honestly wonder if it was an involuntary reaction by Wes. Maybe Bananas hopped in and he took a piss too.
True.
Who's to say?
Who's to say?
I agree. It is gross, and like I'd be like, bring on that ice because it's like fresh and clean. Presumably, it wasn't yellow.
That's fair.
But
That's fair.
Like, let's dilute this, you know?
But in terms of strategies, I mentioned Bananas, you know, whether he knew or not, they got right in there for their turn. And their strategy was good because they realized we're not going to spend so much time in this pool unhooking the pieces and then lifting all the pieces out. Let's just unhook all the pieces while our hands are still warm or haven't frozen off yet. And then we'll worry about getting the pieces out. And I think that kind of helped them with their strategy. And also, when they got to the puzzle part, confirm this or deny this for me, okay, John? I think one of the biggest keys, especially from Bananas' point of view of being in the challenge for a long time, is knowing your role in different situations. And when they got to the puzzle and he said, you know what, I'm going to let Anissa run this show. She seems pretty confident in terms of putting this puzzle together. I think that, you know, when we talk about, oh, what's the difference between being a vet and being a rookie, that's one of the things that's so underrated. Knowing your role, knowing your strengths and weaknesses, and knowing when to give someone else the lead.
I 100% agree with you that that's one of Bananas, and to a lesser extent Wes, and I guess a lot of the vets do this, but like Wes, Anissa, CT, Bananas, they all understand, like, okay, I'm on a team with these people. What are they good at? What are they bad at? Oh, what's that? Anissa's super good at puzzles.
Yeah.
And you alluded to this earlier, but with the Josh, Rogan, Fessy group, it was obvious that they needed someone who was good at puzzles, right?
Yeah.
And in Bananas' case, he has Anissa, who's very good at puzzles.
Yeah.
And I really like Anissa, and I mean this without any disrespect, but she's better built for staying warm than some of the other people in the house.
Okay.
So she'd have a good head on her shoulders coming out of that ice tub. And yeah, Bananas just had, and Bear, surprisingly, Bear was able to stay quiet.
For now.
But for now, in this one instance, he was quiet. But they at least were like, okay, Anissa, like, we're your hands, just tell us where to go, and we're just going to, like, listen to you, which makes sense. You don't want to talk over each other, undo each other's work.
Yeah.
You know, you're cold, you got adrenaline happening. You don't want to be working at cross purposes. But if one person's in charge who you can trust is smart and like knows how to solve a puzzle like Anissa does, by all means, just tell us what to do, Anissa. Let's get this done.
Yeah.
We should also point out that before those three jumped in the water, Bear had the presence of mind to turn, wink, and blow a kiss to Kayla and tell her that he loves her.
Hey, man, shoot or shoot, right? Shoot or shoot.
Always got to have your eye on the prize.
Speaking of the prize, Bear's team wins. They get the prize of being the Tribunal. And Bear does what Bear does in terms of being a sore winner. And he just keeps yelling, that was so easy. That was so easy. To which Anissa turns to him like a mother would to her child and telling him to like shut up. But of course, it's Bear. So we find out, obviously, that team becomes a Tribunal. And we head back to the house. They obviously have a big decision to make because there's 5 members of the Tribunal this time, right? The whole team becomes a Tribunal. So get back to the house. Kyle starts politicking with Maddie. You start seeing the steam building for should Ashley be the one to go in. And, I mean, it leads to a pretty, you know, simple nomination. And I was excited for the nomination this time around because they've been so entertaining the first 2 episodes, or first 3 episodes, whatever it's been so far. And this one kind of just went pretty straightforward, no?
Yeah.
Everyone who had a vote voted for Ashley. There's a bit of drama. Sorry, go on.
There's a few things I want to note. So Kyle, who earlier on says, like, hey, I'm friends with Ashley, but I don't trust her. Because every season she forms a new alliance. Like, she does not stick to her people. But he's like, but I love her. Like, she's fun. Like, I enjoy hanging out with her, but don't trust her. He says this to Maddie. And then when they're doing the, like, group vote, Kyle is the one who's chairing the meeting. And he is like, you know, people have been saying the same name a lot, so I thought we should just, like, give her a chance to defend herself. And then maybe it was an edit, I'm not sure, but suddenly Maddie's like, I vote for Ashley. And like, we did not hear from Ashley.
Yeah.
And it was funny because at the start of the episode, Maddie says, like, I'll never say your name. Fast forward 2 days later, she cuts off Ashley for the opportunity to say Ashley's name first.
Yeah. Yeah, it was not a good look for Ashley because everyone turned on her, even some people who she thought were her friends, especially Dee, who, you know, for being real, was what people thought was her only friend in the house. And I was kind of, at this point, I was like, Dee sucks. Because here's the thing, right? Everybody already knows you're sided with Ashley. So even, like, there's no harm in you just throwing out a burn vote for someone else just cuz. Like, you automatically being like, oh, well, I can't trust you anymore, Ashley. And saying that is just showing you have no loyalty.
Well, and this is where Kyle, this ties back to my Insane Clown Posse opening. Kyle was really the voice of reason in all of this. Because he even said, you know what? Let's stop voting. Like, it's clear who's going in.
Yeah.
Let's not embarrass Ashley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
People have said their piece.
And
unless anyone objects, let's wrap it up. And Ashley basically stormed out. But I thought that was really good gameplay from Kyle.
Yeah.
Because in the long run, Ashley can't be like, oh, you fucking Kyle. Because not only did he not vote for her, it didn't, like, none of the men voted yet. But also, he, like, looked out for her without, like, no one can say that he, like, undermined them or was trying to protect Ashley. So it was, like, a little subtle move by Kyle, and then he went and chased her down the hallway to apologize and to explain why he called off the vote. He was trying to save her the embarrassment.
I can't lie, I found that kind of phony.
Really?
Yeah, just because I was like, you're playing the exact same game that you're getting mad at Ashley for playing. Because you're going to Maddie saying, you don't trust Ashley, you're going to vote her in, everyone's going to vote her in. And then, even as the vote ended, Ashley storms out, Ashley's gone, he stands on the table and says, I was going to vote for Ashley, my vote's for Ashley, ha ha ha. Then runs off before everyone else gets a chance to. And he's like, oh, Ashley, I'm so sorry, I hope you're okay, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, you're doing the exact same thing. But, hey, whatever works for you, Kyle. See how far you go in the game. No problem.
I will say, I like Kyle more and more. Just like in terms of our typical standard of like, would I get a drink with Kyle? Would I hang out with Kyle?
Yeah.
Absolutely. He was super funny. We skipped over the fact that he and Corey basically quit on Bailey.
Yeah.
In the ice bath. And then like he chirped himself where he's like, you know, shout out to everyone. You did a great job except for Corey and I. We suck.
Yeah.
Like, he's just, like, seems like a charming, fun guy. I don't know that I want to be his ally on the challenge, but, like, he seems like he's a fun, cool guy to hang out with. And, like, it helps that we don't have, like, he's not tainted by the, like, Kara and Polly dynamic.
For sure. For sure. And, you know, Ashley is super rattled, obviously. She can't go quietly. She tells everyone thinks I'm not good, but if they want to see me down there, you better hope it's on a puzzle or something that involves brains. She's like, ask Nani last year. I know I'm crying now, and I was crying right before the elimination, but ask Nani last year how that went, because I was crying before that too, and I came back. I was just like, whoa, that's an unnecessary shot at Nani.
Ashley took a lot of unnecessary shots this episode.
She went down blazing, for sure. So we get a nightclub scene. Not much really happens except for Bananas and his mentoring of Big T. And I think the thing here is what we establish is everyone kind of likes Big T, and she seems to be a likable person within the house. You get Bananas, you get Wes saying that, and he's giving her a little bit of game, right? In terms of, you got to use this opportunity to gain some form of power. And what she ends up doing is she kind of tries to make a deal with the holy trinity of Jenna, Nani, and Kayla. What did you think of Big T's politic in here?
You know when, like, you're hanging out with a little kid, and they hand you a toy phone, and like you're obligated to answer and say hello as if it was a real phone. You know how you just humor them? I really felt like Jenna, Nani, and Kayla were just humoring Big T. Yeah. Where like the way they spoke to, they're like, oh, for real? You're gonna keep me out? Okay, cool. I like how Nani in particular is like, well, two of my best friends in the house are on the tribunal, so like I think I'm good, but like I'll hear you out. Okay.
Yeah.
Because like she's super tight with Bananas and Anissa, so she like
I wasn't worried.
Super worried. Yeah, and like I like how Kayla was like, oh, I'm surprised to hear that anyone's saying my name.
Yeah.
But okay.
It was a good test run for Big T, though.
Yeah, and I like how Bananas and Wes both described it, where they're like, low-key, she's hilarious. Because she has this British accent, and she's really nice, and she's funny, but she doesn't know what she's doing. And it's fun to just, like, put a quarter in her and see what happens.
Yeah. No, for sure. No drama at all. Nothing much really going on at the bar. Not much going on back at the house, except, Bear still shooting his shot with Kayla, getting the dudes a fake laugh.
I do want to say about the bar, was that not the nicest looking bar they've ever been to on this show? Normally it looks like they go to a bar and it's just like 5 kinds of liquor, a couple of crates set up to be the bar, and like some bad lighting. But this like looked like a legitimate bar that would be like nice to actually go to in a real, like on an actual night out, not just to like, hey, you're not gonna be in the house, here's different brands of liquor. You know what I mean? It looked way nicer.
Yeah, no, it looked like a nice spot for sure. Totally looked like a nice spot.
Anyway, sorry, back to Bear and Kayla. As you said, we got Bear, Rogan, and Wes talking about, well, first of all, Bear asks if Wes is still playing the dead possum. I don't think they have possums in England, because like the entire point of a possum is that they play dead. That's their defense mechanism. But maybe Bear's not up on his North American mammals. Who's to say?
It's fair.
And then before Wes could even really answer, Bear like pivots the conversation into how much he's in love with Kayla.
Yeah. And they're standing outside Kayla's room, and he's like, come on guys, fake laugh for me, fake laugh. And Rogan's like, oh, Bear, you're so funny and sexy. Like it's hilarious.
That's a good move. That works.
Yeah, he's just being funny, and he's joking around saying that Kayla told him that she likes him, and Wes tries to confirm, but Wes is just playing it up too. Like, they all know where this is going, right? So it just becomes more of a funny joke. And after that happens, because to me at this point, like the Bear and Kayla thing, we know what happens, and we see how exactly it's happening. She's trying, but as I said a couple weeks ago when we were talking about the Chris Rock bit, right, and cheating, you might stop chasing, but if it's chasing you, you can only run away so fast before you get caught. I think that's what's happening to Kayla right now.
I have further insight into the Kayla situation, but I'm going to save it for what looks like is going to go down next episode.
Fair enough, my dude.
That's all I'm going to say on that issue.
So we get the tribunal. It's pretty straightforward, right? They end up putting in Dee, Tori, and Maddie. Dee because they don't trust her and she's just aligned with Ashley. Tori because Tori wants to go in, and Maddie obviously because her and Ashley got beef. Tribunal's pretty straightforward. No, like Maddie says it's chancy. She's not really sure if she wants to go in. She doesn't really sound like she wants to risk it, but she's not scared at the end of the day, right? Tori says that she wants to go in as long as it's not a puzzle, and Dee just says that she wants to go in, period. But here comes the dynamic of what this whole season's going to be, because when obviously we get the part about D and bananas, which whatever. But to me, the interesting part here was the realization of the tribunal. Wait a second, like, do we want to reward D here and like give her an opportunity to get a skull? Like, I don't think so. So they weren't really prepared. They were going to go in, see what the actual challenge was going to be, and then make their decision. And I thought that was really cool. It just kind of setting the scene for how I think it's going to go the entire season.
Yeah, I think a big part of going into every purgatory is to be like, is this hard or is this easy? Does this play to the person's strengths? Does it play to my strengths?
Yeah.
Like, am I going to volunteer to go in? Am I going to send in an enemy? Like, it really adds a great wrinkle to the game.
Yeah.
What I found weird about these tribunal conversations, and I wasn't the only one, like, Tori and Dee were both like, that was very aggressive for what should be like a pretty chill conversation. Like, Tori even said, like, I thought we were friends when I came in here, but like now I'm getting the sense that we're not friends. Like, I don't know why you guys are coming so hard.
Yeah, I just think the stakes are so high at this point with how these tribunals are going to be this season, where you have a big decision to make. Normally, you already know who you have your sights on, who you're going to put in, and that's it. This time around, though, there's so much more to think about, right? Like, do you want to throw in D because you don't like her? Do you want to give Tori a chance to win, but it depends on what the actual challenge is going to be? Then you got to remember the fact that Casey, Anissa, or Big T could decide that they want to go in themselves, right? Yeah. And I think that that's something to also think about, that they could want to go in, and so it just adds another level of stress, and I think that's why the tension seemed to be at an all-time high. And I get it. I understand it.
So we get to the actual competition, the elimination, which is called Code Breaker.
Yep.
And the rules are very complicated, it seems. So each competitor is going to have a wheel that they're going to spin. And whatever, there's 5 wheels that you actually spin. The first wheel, it's a particular
symbol.
A particular symbol. Then you have a giant, it looks like a giant dice, a giant die. You have to roll it into position, get up on top of it, and hit like a flower pot. And inside the flower pot, there may or may not be your symbol. And you have to work your way through all the flower pots to find the symbols. Once you find your symbol, you take it back and to like your little board, spin the wheel, go get another symbol. And then once you get all 5 symbols, you then have to flip over the symbols, and they have the names of challenge seasons, and you have to put them in chronological order. Now, we didn't get all that explanation off the hop. They just sort of like have the tribunal vote just sort of by looking at it. And I have to tell you, when I saw it, I'm like, okay, this is a puzzle. I thought Anissa was going to volunteer herself.
Yeah, no, I didn't think so. I could tell that the fact that it didn't even come up in conversation, I didn't think that they were going to go in. Like, there was no chance that they were going to go in because it didn't even come up in any of their discussions at all, either of them going in. But also, yes, it did look like a puzzle, but it looked super complicated as well. And I think in that sense, someone says it, maybe it was Jordan, who says that he's so glad Tori wasn't in it because of how, like, there's so much chance involved in this completing this puzzle that it's just not worth the risk. And so that's why they throw in D. I think that was a perfect decision to make.
Well, and one of the things that I think is noteworthy is Ashley's really good at puzzles and is like low-key good in all eliminations, but she's especially good at puzzles.
Yeah.
Like, that's her strength.
Yep.
So they see it and they're like, ooh. I have a question for you, though. You just said that putting D in is the right call. Would it have made sense to put in Tori?
No, because you could tell that, as Tori said, like, they're aligned, quote unquote, with Tori, right? Like, they're not against Tori.
I guess so. We don't really have the parameters of what this alliance looks like.
True.
Like, we don't fully know who it's in. All I'm saying is that, like, they were speaking earlier about how the quote unquote holy trinity of Kayla and Nani and Jenna are the most powerful alliance because they're like ride or die and they'll never turn on each other. But also, you gotta think that what's his face, Swaggy and Bailey, they're like for sure tight alliance, and Jordan and Tori are a tight alliance. So if you see that someone who's pretty good at puzzles in an elimination position in Ashley, and you know Tori is bad at puzzles, isn't that an opportunity to get rid of Tori?
For sure.
And also, you know that Ashley is going to go in again because she's going to keep pissing people off.
Here's the thing, though, right? Like, taking your shot at Tori, whether you hit or miss, that means you got to deal with Jordan.
Yeah.
And that means, you know, obviously the political side of Jordan, but also just the gameplay of Jordan coming after you, right? So,
yeah.
I mean, is that worth the risk this early in the house? I don't know.
But Jordan's not as good politically as Tori. Like, they're a good team because he's really smart. Not that she's dumb. She's smart too. But he's such a dick that he pisses people off. And Tori, like, they play good cop, bad cop. And we saw that earlier this season with Dee. But if you remove Tori from the show, Jordan is so explosive in his temper. And without her to like rein him in and to apologize and to smooth things over, I think, yeah, Jordan's going to be dangerous, but he's also probably going to play himself out of the game just because he's such a relentless dick, and she really is a moderating influence.
I don't know, though. I go the other way because I think last season was a perfect example of everyone hating Jordan and trying to get him out, and they just couldn't.
Yeah.
Right? So, like,
but also,
he could be the worst political player, and it doesn't matter, right? You still got to get him out. But
if they get mad at you putting in Tori, you can also be like, but Jordan, she said in our like little tribunal discussion that she wants her Red Skull, and this would be I thought she wanted to go in. Yeah. I don't understand why you're mad.
I also think that this wasn't really, like, looking at it, you could tell that, yeah, it's a puzzle, but it's not really a puzzle. And it's going to be up to chance, because you can kind of get an idea of what it was going to be in terms of the smashing of the pots, and that's chance. That's not a puzzle at all.
Yeah. Well, and that, I don't know if you caught this, but at one point, Ashley says that when she smashed a pot, she thought it was empty, but there was one of the symbols in it, and it fell and got buried in the sand.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she gets the first of the symbols,
and then
Dee just like whips past her, and part of it, I think, is, I mean, Ashley said it to Dee in passing, like it wasn't in Confessional.
Yeah.
I think it was that Ashley lost that symbol in the sand and didn't know it.
Yeah. Nope, I agree. And so Dee gets out to the crazy, crazy lead, but then at the very end, you have to put the pieces into order in terms of the chronological order of seasons of the challenge, to which Dee would obviously have no idea what that is because she'd never really seen the challenge before she'd been on the challenge. So how does she get through? With the hand of her friend Wes, who is telling her the order of the seasons of the challenge. And
but even then, it took her like 10 tries. Like,
for sure.
I don't know if there's a miscommunication between them or what.
I honestly think that was editing.
Yeah?
Yeah, I honestly think it was editing, and she was probably done way faster than it appeared.
Oh.
Right? And, like, you know, Ashley, just to make it seem like, oh no, is Ashley coming back? Yeah, Ashley's coming back. She's one behind her. We're going to commercial break. Do you know what I mean? I think so. Obviously, I have no idea. But, as mentioned, Dee wins, right? Which, to me, you know, that's not the surprise. Ashley goes out. I'm sure we'll talk about Ashley's comments. But I want to ask you something here. Are you okay with how Dee won this in terms of Wes essentially helping her to finish? Because she just would have been guessing a random order, and how would she have ever gotten it right? Like, she actually sit there and play out every single combination of the order of the 5 seasons? That would take forever.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, for all those different orders, she would have to like try it and then have TJ check, and then try it and then have TJ check, and like TJ doesn't like sprint over to check, right? So like It was an interesting dynamic. People seemed pissed that Wes was helping her. Like at one point, they said that people were booing and shouting over Wes so that Dee couldn't hear him. You can also clearly see TJ in the background at one point telling Wes to be quiet.
Oh, okay.
Like you see him like signaling like, "Hey man, like be quiet," and saying it wasn't fair.
Okay.
I don't object to it though. Like in every single elimination, we see people shouting advice. Like we've seen so many people, like we've seen Johnny Bananas give direction to people. We've seen Wes give. We've seen Jordan. Like this happens almost every single elimination where someone like helps out their friend. So, I don't see why it was so egregious that Wes was doing that. What I thought was interesting was that Johnny and Wes are not on the same page about Dee, who is Wes's closest ally outside of Johnny.
Well, you got to remember, Dee was trying to get Johnny out just a week prior.
Yeah, and Wes saved her, but you would think that like Wes would like, I don't know, sit Johnny and Dee down to like hash it out. Like,
no, I think was just we got to know that Johnny and Wes are just playing this game for now. But I think they both know that they're riding this out as long as they can until they know there's going to be a moment where it's going to go back to normal. But as of now, it benefits them to kind of, steer clear of each other because there's already enough eyes on them.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
So Dee ends up winning thanks to Wes's intervention and also seemingly Ashley's bad luck. Ashley at first is quite a gracious loser. She and Dee are friends after all. So she congratulates Dee, she hugs her. She says, she says to everyone, I'm not going to forget, this is just a game. We're all still cool. We're all still friends. And then, as Johnny says, classic Ashley, Jekyll and Hyde, she turns the corner and is suddenly like, points out that Johnny and Wes are clearly in an alliance. Mm-hmm. Calls Wes a douchebag. Says that he's too old, that he's over the hill, and just like goes off on him.
Yeah.
What did you think of Smashley's performance? Her post-performance performance?
Regular listeners to this podcast know that I'm a basketball fan. And with that, Mark Jackson is one of the most famous broadcasters, and he has a line that he says all the time when someone hits a jump shot and he yells going to break, "You know the rules, hand down, man down." And I laugh every single time, even though it's a cheesy-ass line. So in this instance, I'm going to get my Mark Jackson on and ask Ashley, you know the rules, all is fair in love, war, and the challenge.
Yeah.
You've been on the show long enough, and I think it's lame what Wes did. I really do. But at the end of the day, it's a challenge, right? I think it's lame what Bear did, but it's a challenge. I even think Ashley spitting on Bear is lame, but it's a challenge. So all of these things wrapped up, it's like she's just super salty on the way out, and it's not a good look again. It's like, just take your L and leave. That's all.
I also have to say, I'm on MTV Australia's website right now.
Okay.
And they do have the challenge. So
now
I don't know what Dee's talking about.
Maybe now, but not the earlier seasons.
But also, don't you think once you've been on one season of the challenge, you're going to start to, I don't know, do some research, brush up on your fundamentals, listen to a Canadian podcast about the challenge and like get up to speed?
I wouldn't have been able to do that. I wouldn't have been able, I probably would have worked my way through it eventually, but off the top, I wouldn't have been able to put those into order.
Well, I will tell Dee, and I'll tell anyone listening, that MTV.ca, the Canadian MTV, has 20 seasons of the challenge for free. So grab yourself a VPN, and you can just watch them back to back to back to back. They also have all the seasons of The Real World back for a decade. And the Jersey Shore, all the classic MTV shows, all for free. Sometimes ad-free, too. So, D, other listeners, MTV.ca, they got you covered. What was Oh, sorry. There's one last thing I have to point out. Dee wins. She has a red skull. People are mixed on it. Interesting to me that people, after they all were complaining about how much they dislike Ashley, people were suddenly rooting for her over Dee. Like, that goes to, like, say how disliked Dee is in the house. But after she wins, Kyle announces to everyone, now Rogan's not going to get laid tonight. And it begs the question, who would Rogan have sex with?
No, I think he said now Rogan's not going to get laid for the rest of the season.
Even still.
I think he's just making a joke. I think he's just making fun of him because Dee's going to be there to cock block him. And Ashley alluded to earlier on in the episode that if Dee can't trust Ashley, then I think Ashley says sorry. She says, if Dee can't trust me, then who can she trust in this house? Because it's not her boyfriend who's literally been trying to sleep with every single girl in the house.
I'm just getting the sense that there are more romantic entanglements in the house than we've seen so far.
For sure. And like what happens in normal seasons of the challenge is, someone might be hooking up chronologically what happens, let's say, in between episodes 2 and 3, but they never show that in the episodes until, that person's time becomes on the clock, let's say. Right? Yeah. So whoever that person is, like, let's just say it was Maddie, for example. The theme of that episode would be, oh, look, Maddie and Rogan have been hooking up. Then we'll see that, right? But, yeah, I don't know.
What is your line of the episode? Because I'll tell you, again, as I promised, circling back to Lucas Wyatt, he says that Nelson's comment during Cold War has to be the line of the week, right? And I'll tell you, I wrote it down. I don't think it was exact, but he said that it's so cold that my balls shot up into me and come out my mouth. I've never felt something as cold as this. That was Nelson. That's Lucas Wyatt's vote for line of the episode. But what was yours, Sheldon?
I said it earlier. It was after Maddie and Bear are yelling at, Bear's yelling at Ashley. Ashley yells back, "You put toxic chemicals into my mouth," to which Maddie says, quote, "I'm sure you've had worse, bitch." And the bench reacts. That was my line of the episode.
I do think that was the line of the episode. I agree with you. There were some other good lines. I liked Wes said, "I love power. I put it in my goblet and I drink it until I get drunk."
Well played.
I like it. Well played. It was a pretty good quippy episode. But who killed it for you this week, Sheldon?
This is going to be weird because I'm going way off the board here. But I'm saying Big T killed it. And it's not because she didn't do much to win the challenge per se. But I just thought it was a good episode for her in terms of getting some challenge street cred, right? You were part of the winning team, but she got to watch some vets at work in terms of Johnny Bananas and Anissa. She got to play some game in terms of acknowledging the power that you get by winning a challenge. I thought that was pretty good for her. And plus, it was just kind of like a good, representation of her for us as a viewer, because we don't get to see that much of her or understand that much of her because she's pretty quiet and in the background. But you had enough people bigging up her personality. She's a really good person. And we just have a different thought process of her now, or our thought process on her now is different than it was, let's say, last year when it was just, oh, she's a layup, throw her in again. So the character turn that Big T has made in this season was bigged up in this episode, and for that, I'm making her my MVP of this episode.
That's interesting. That's an interesting pick. I like it. I like that you went off the board. I'm saying Johnny Bananas killed it this week. And I'm not the biggest Johnny Bananas fan, as you know, as longtime listeners know. But I think Johnny's greatest strength is actually in daily competitions. He's really exceptionally smart about thinking outside of the box. And he was really smart to be like, guys, let's not waste time and energy, especially time, getting the pieces out of the water. Let's focus on getting the carabiners undone and letting the pieces float out. I thought that was very smart. And then he had the presence of mind to be like, I'm just going to let Anissa rock on this puzzle. I'm just going to do what she says. And he got out one of his biggest nemeses in Ashley. So I think, all around, good episode for Johnny Bananas, right? Strengthened his position politically, showed why he's one of the most successful competitors of all time on the challenge. Just an all-around good showing by your man's JB. Where can the good people... Go ahead.
Yeah, that was my prim and proper who won the episode, but in reality, who won the episode? It's Bear. Self-explanatory. I think real ones know if you're paying attention to this episode. Bear wins again because he is reality TV and he is a challenge.
He is the walking incarnation of reality TV. Where can the good people find you on social media, Sheldon?
You could find me on Twitter at Shell Alexander, on Instagram at Sheldon Alexander, and please continue to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube. Like and subscribe. Tell your friends. We're here. We're here.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at jchidleyhill. And until next week, this was You Killed It.
You killed